Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Iowa Mission Lifeline Task Force meeting. We do have a lot to get through today, so sharing some good closeout information of the grant and sort of a wrap up, and thinking about what's on or next steps. Still see folks joining here. Give it a minute. Just redirecting a few people. Change late just so we could ensure that this call would be recorded for everyone. I had a few requests, and we don't always have these set up to record, so this one will only be recorded and shared within a few days afterwards via YouTube, actually. Getting quite a bit of background noise from someone, so if you could just make sure that your line is muted, or if you do not have a mute on your phone, *6, please. All right, get started in the due time that we only have today. And again, welcome everyone. This is Gary Myers. This is the Iowa Lifeline Task Force meeting. Obviously, we've been working on this project with many of you for a little over 3 years now. We're excited to share kind of a wrap-up of the grant project itself, and then talk about where we go from here. You'll also be hearing from Katie Bergen today, who is our Iowa QSI Director. And again, please make sure your line is muted. If you think it's muted, I'm still hearing a few folks, some background noise, so please go ahead and *6 just to be safe. Overarching goal, long-term goal of this Mission Lifeline project was to increase lives saved by creating an effective system of care for STEMI heart attack patients in rural Iowa. This goal, we implemented the following strategies. We went through and convened and collaborated with EMS and hospital stakeholders to strengthen and enhance the current system infrastructure, promoting sustainable consistency and quality of care. We did at the statewide level and in regions as well, and I think that was one thing that Iowa stood out a little bit. There was a lot more regional meetings and regional work done. Iowa was bigger than any of the other states really that we had worked in, and spread out a lot of PCI-capable hospitals, a lot of hospitals in general, and a lot of EMS agencies. So we did more regional work, which continues on today with the work in several cities that continue to hold citywide STEMI meetings. Overall coverage by developing and addressing key priorities in equipment and software for transmitting and receiving ECGs. We'll have some results on that in a few slides. And getting some background noise, I'm going to have to go ahead and mute everyone, the whole call, if we don't make sure we're muted on your end, please. So video, thank you. Swift identification of the STEMI in the field and increase. Okay, hold on 1 second, everyone. Everyone. Those lines.
You proceed, Mr. Myers.
Okay, so everyone, we just had some background noise and went and muted all lines. We'll open them up later for questions. So in number 3, enable swift identification of the STEMI in the field and increase response rates by training all EMS personnel, emergency medical personnel, and the statewide system of care. So a lot of education going on as well. Implement protocols that guide EMS and hospitals It's equipped to provide preferred reperfusion strategy for patients, support standardized hospital protocols, educating on best practices, and ensuring standardized high quality of care, implement continuous quality improvement and benchmarking across regions, the state, and nationwide through collection, analysis, and review of standardized data. In this particular area, we had a little bit of a gap, but as Katie will show you later, we are recovering from that gap in data and data collection. Increase public awareness for critical need to dial 911 to activate the system, and increase chances of survival, which was a big piece of this project for us, really seeing, like in most rural states, the overlap of calling 911. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25% only patients are calling 911 for attack symptoms. For 3 years, we had in-person and teleconference webinar meetings. We had 85 of those total. Convened the 3-year project with 1,700 participants, and of course that's duplicated by many of you, and actively participating in the stakeholder meetings, demonstrating the time and commitment of all of our volunteer STEMI champions throughout the state. Look at the EMS grant awards. Did several rounds of applications throughout the 3 years. So we all across the state for EMS agencies to apply. And we needed that information from the application to make educated decisions on where best to put devices. My EMS advisory committee members, the working group in year 1 for sure, reviewed many applications and ranked them through 4 rounds. Went through 4 rounds of ranking, and then we used that same rankings, 3 rounds of ranking, and went and used that same ranking sheets to do a round 4 and 5 grant awards. These were awarded 12 lead monitors, and then some were awarded upgrades to those monitors, which included modems and data support. All 12 lead monitors came with a modem and data plan, as well as the monitor itself. Completion of the 3-year project, there were a total of 109 awards to EMS agencies, which did surpass the target that we had set at the beginning of 93. Good and bad a little bit, I would say, not necessarily bad, but where we exceed a target in funding in one area, it probably means that we didn't get a target in another area and had to move some dollars around. And I'll talk about a little bit about a few of those areas where we didn't quite hit the mark. In addition to our primary funder, of course, the Leona M. and Harry B. Helmsley Charitable Trust, we're able to secure some additional private matching funds, and 47 of those grant awards came from the private matching funds. We were able to raise in addition to the grant from the Helmsley Charitable Trust. I won't read all these, obviously, but here is a list of EMS agencies that were awarded in each round. So rounds 1 and 2, round 4, and then end of the grant, we did a final round or a 5th round, going back through all the applications and awarding those additional agencies. We've mapped all of the agencies that were awarded, and for the most part, a good spread. You can see there's some clusters, of course, in certain areas. Still, we were able to fill in this area a little bit more. There was kind of a gap here for a bit. There was a little of a gap up here, so we were able to address a few of those gaps. Unfortunately, down in this area, we still had a very minimal participation from both EMS agencies and hospitals, you'll find, from this particular part of the state. And still don't necessarily know why. We did a lot of reaching out in this particular area, and there just wasn't a lot of interest in grant dollars down here. The highest 100% of the rural 24/7 PCI centers, 16 in total, allocated for data entry, Ag Registry Get With the Guidelines, which was our data collection tool at the time, 12 lead receipt software systems. 40 critical access hospitals accepted the funding for LifeNet receiving software. We had anticipated that number would be higher. We had funding side for not twice that many, but in the neighborhood of 60 to 70 hospitals we had funding allocated for access and non-PCI hospitals. So we did not hit the mark that we had set out for there, and we had done a lot of pushing at the end of the grant, not only from the AHA standpoint, but from the vendor standpoint, and also from our PCI-capable hospitals reaching out directly to their partnering facilities and making sure that there was no missing out on this opportunity. ACC split from the AHA with our data collection in 2017, April. The AHA relaunched to get with the guidelines CAD, coronary artery disease, and we were able to support 13 rural PCI centers to expand and expand the support for 4 PCI centers to transition to this new AMI data collection so that we can continue to have the data to do continued quality improvement in reporting in the metrics. So as you can see, a few of the hospitals, there's 16 that were received grants. A few of those opted not to participate and get with the guidelines CAD. But the one thing that we were able to do was offer grants to what were the initially excluded areas of Cedar Rapids and Council Bluffs. We were able to offer grants to those hospitals in those areas, and 4 of those hospitals took advantage of the grants and came on with Get With The Guidelines CAD. So hospitals, here is the list of those PCI-capable hospitals that took advantage of the grant dollars. And here you can see the ones with stars on them are the formerly excluded areas, hospitals that took advantage of that year grant that we were able to offer. Go back to the Helmsley Charitable Trust and ask for a special consideration because of change from Action Registry to Get With The Guidelines CAD, and all hospitals, all the PCI-capable hospitals in those areas were offered the grant dollars, and these were the 4 that took us up on those. The grant FID PCI-capable hospitals. So again, a very nice spread across the state. Non hospitals that received grants. So here's the list of those hospitals that received grants throughout the 340 in total, and there's a spread of those hospitals as well. So you can see there were some gaps in certain areas that unfortunately lack of participation. Not a lot of not huge gaps, but at the same time, this area on here is still unknown why we had a lack of participation from the grant funding. I know that there is participation in system of care work down here, most definitely, and we'll hear about one particular patient that was down in this area and their case study a little bit later on. So I don't know if it was just a grant issue, but it's certainly not a participation in the system issue as far as we can tell. One of the outcomes that we show, that we look at in particular, the number of transmissions. We really feel that transmissions from the field MS agencies, especially in rural areas where it's primarily BLS, the number of transmission going up shows a better coverage of a system of care. So from 2014 to 15, the number of transmissions, ECG transmissions across the state increased by 21.4% from where it was to begin with. And then we had another 35.5% increase in 2016 and a whopping 68% increase from 16 to 17, an overall increase of 177% throughout the course of the project. So, transmissions don't tell the whole tale of a system of care and patient outcomes, but they do show that the equipment that was granted throughout the course is being used, and that's what's really important. Hospital education, EMS and hospital trainers were scheduled classes and delivered education throughout the state, throughout for 2 rounds throughout the 3 years of the grant. Upon completion of the grant, 36 EMS sessions were delivered in round 1 to 407 participants, 20 EMS sessions in round 2 for 308 participants, for a total of 64 sessions and 715 participants for overall EMS. That's a little lower than we expected. Again, towards the year 3, we were really trying to get our EMS agencies to take part in the education. We understand that there's a lot of competing factors out there for ES time, education being one. But this was education that was offered in-house, so we really did think that there would be more participation than this. We hope that with the sustainability that we have built in, and which I'll talk about a little bit later, there will be additional participation in education. 58 total training sessions were delivered to 779 participants. Again, this was more than we had hoped. This does not account for many outreach sessions that were delivered by individual PCI-capable hospitals. One of the things that for Iowa, there's a ton of outreach done with folks in the PCI-capable hospitals. Champions at individual hospitals, reaching out to EMS agencies, reaching out to hospitals, and talking about Mission Lifeline, the system of care, and making sure everyone was on board. So this does not account for that, and there was much that happening. Shout out to Mercy College of Health Sciences in Des Moines, our contractor for the EMS education, doing all of that and scheduling the classes and vetting the instructors and getting the instructors paid through the contract. So thanks for all the help there, David, and the Mercy College of Health Sciences in Des Moines. And, of course, shout out to NIA, who managed all of the MWA, our Mission Lifeline assistant, who managed all of the education for the hospital piece. Here is a list of the agencies that took part and participated in the EMS education and education. And these, again, this will be recorded, and these slides will be shared if anyone wants to review these lists. Any of these lists, they'll be made available. And contract educators for Iowa, there is a list. Several of you, I'm sure, are on this call now. Thank you for everything that you've done throughout the course of the grant. Many of you, stood up huge, did a lot of traveling, did a lot of education in certain areas. So we appreciate everything and all the educational work that you did throughout the course of the grant. Nothing new for many of you. It's what you do. You reach out to your areas and you do a lot of education already. So we hope that Mission Lifeline and the things that we do with Mission Lifeline you and the materials that we gave you were good materials to do the education. Any feedback from any of the instructors back to the process would be appreciated, that we can incorporate that into future programs. So, but thank you very much to all the instructors. I don't know that we've ever shared the full list of names, so I wanted to make sure that they all recognized in this presentation. EMS Education Survey, overall we had 164 total evaluations that were delivered back to Mercy College of Health Science. Great scores across the board on overall survey. So overall rating of 4.74 out of 5, with many rated a 5 across the board. So never received any negative feedback. I got directly from EMS Education. Some of the instructors I know had some issues with scheduling and coordination and working within the system, within that contracted system, but I didn't hear anything from the participants in a negative way. So that's the most important part for us. Videos. I was planning on playing some of these, but unfortunately the video and sound together won't work very well in this style of presentation. So, but when you get the copy of this, if you have seen any of these videos, they're great videos. The STEMI education outreach for clinics and outpatients, non-PCI hospitals, EMS. These are great videos, kind of a brainchild initially of the Des Moines STEMI group. This was something that they were working on and wanted to see if we could partner with them on. So a great plan that was brought to us by them. And Mark McCullough, shout out to Mark for sure for being our narrator on these videos. He did a great job, put time in reviewing, reading scripts for these videos. And not only these videos are being viewed across the whole nation, being asked for how did we do this, what did we use them for, can we borrow pieces of it. Tom Sawyer, TSE, did a phenomenal job working with us on these videos made and spent many hours with Heather looking through these videos and getting them just right. So, TS Media and in Des Moines, well, thank you very much to Sawyer. these are, people are still asking to use the videos. I did a request from our Mission Lifeline counterparts in the state of New York. They wanted to use some of these videos for some of their meetings and some things they were doing. So really happy with how these turned out. And if you haven't seen these, check them out. They're available on the Mission Lifeline Iowa page under resources. And we do have the enduring credits also that were created. So you can go onto the AHA's from this link, go on the AHA's Lifelong Learning site and get CME for physicians for this continuing education. So this really was built for those non-PCI, those critical access providers, for them to go and view this enduring education and receive CME for it. Thank you to all the volunteers that participated in the hospitals and EMS agencies that participated not only in the educational videos but also the patient success story videos. And again, I was hoping to be able to share those, but I could only share the video itself, not the sound. So I encourage you to go out and find these. If you have trouble finding these, the links will be in this presentation. But if you have any trouble finding them, reach out to Katie or myself so that you can check these out. We had a lot of volunteers, including, when Heather and Tom were working through this and Mark developing these, Heather even had her father be one of the patients. So can't say enough for the EMS agencies and hospitals and just volunteers in general that helped to create all of these videos. Conferences. So in years 2 and 3, we did conferences. In the year 2, there were 441 participants at the statewide conference locations in Sioux City, Des Moines, and Cedar Rapids, so 441 total in those 3 sites. And then we did have a regional STEMI meeting in year 2. In year 3, the Mission Lifeline Symposium was held at 5 locations connected via teleconference. So all 5 locations had participants totaling 197. Ames, Council Bluffs, Dubuque, Ottumwa, and Storm Lake were all connected via AHA's Skype, and the speakers in 3 of those sites, and we kind of bounced back and forth between the 3 sites with Dubuque and Council Bluffs being view-only sites. So those participants were just watching, and the rest of them all had live speakers at some point in front of them. So a model that seemed to work well, and something that we will continue to explore using that connected site model, because a lot of participants were able to not drive as far and participate, and speakers really appreciated it as well, not having to drive as far to participate. Here were the dates for those 2 conferences, the multiple conferences we had in 2016, and then the 1 conference multi-site that we had in 2017. Objectives and obviously that we during those 2 conferences. Development, protocol and guideline development and alignment. So during the course of the grant, we worked with our hospital advisory committee, EMS advisory committee, our overall task force, our cardiology steering committee, and created the recommended EMS guideline. Worked within the EMS system, within MSAC and WASP to align the Mission Lifeline recommended guidelines with MSAC's guidelines. We worked with our interventional cardiology steering committee to develop a slide guideline that we put out to all critical access hospitals for referring hospitals guidelines. So I'll click on these quick and show you EMS STEMI transport guideline. This is available on Mission Lifeline website, so for any EMS agency to review and use. And again, this aligns with the state of Iowa EMS guidelines for STEMI. And then have the statewide hospital guidelines for referring hospitals. And again, these are available on the Iowa Mission Lifeline website. This is something that, one of the things moving forward that we will want to do is review this and make sure that we still have consensus and there's no revisions that need to be made to this. including contact numbers for all of the PCI-capable hospitals, making sure those are up to date. So I'm happy with the way these turned out, and that was put into them. I can't thank the participants in the different work groups that worked to make sure that we had consensus of a statewide guideline in both EMS and hospital. So various worksheets that go with these that were created through feedback, hospitals, the EMS agencies, to make tracking and guideline compliance easier for EMS agencies and hospitals, and those worksheets in PDF format to be downloaded and used at your leisure are available for anyone who would like to. Education. We did stakeholder interviews and conducted a statewide radio campaign, newspaper articles. EMS agencies that received equipment awards had articles about life-saving equipment, and then call 911 in local newspapers. That was something that we really appreciated. If EMS agencies wanted to publicize their award and talk about Mission Lifeline, we were able to give them a template to use, and they were posting pictures of their agencies with their grant funded leads and talking about Mission Lifeline. A lot of materials that were delivered throughout the 3 years to stakeholders, and meet a lot of orders over the 3 years for these materials that were created to be used at health fairs and conferences and for displayed at clinics for that were coming into clinic. Multiple pays are developed along with traditional media and TV spots and paid ads. We worked with our youth market staff, which you may know them for our programs like Hoops for Heart and Jump Rope for Heart. They put together educational curriculum, and we're able to add some 911 specific messaging within that curriculum. And for our marketing was our contractor for a lot of this material, and they conduct a pre and post consumer awareness survey. Many of you probably remember the post survey that confirmed a lot of the things that we had thought and showed us a few new things. Why people don't call 911 in rural areas. So, something that we need to continue to work on, not only in Iowa, but in all of our rural states, addressing those questions and needs of the patients and why they don't call 911. We are patiently awaiting the post-survey results to see if we made any dent in people's thinking about this. So as soon as that post-survey is ready and available, we'll be sharing that at a future task force meeting. Step really was to, get the Iowa campaign was to conduct a Mission Lifeline consumer perception study, like I was talking about, which served rural Iowans between 35 and 64 to measure consumer attitudes and feelings towards their willingness to call 911. It was conducted prior to the campaign to establish a baseline, and then we will the process of administering that post-campaign. And some of the things that we heard were things that we knew. They were worried about the cost of an ambulance, didn't want to bother anybody, didn't want to make a big fuss and have their neighbors know that something was going on when the ambulance showed up, lights and sirens. One of the things that we did learn that has been confirmed in another survey recently done in North Dakota for the same around the principles of why don't rural folks call 911 in emergencies is a lack of confidence in some cases in rural EMS providers and rural hospitals. A lot of times we found that is based either on anecdotal stories or a one-time experience. So what that tells us is we need to continue to educate locally about the good work that EMS agencies and critical hospitals do. One experience by either a person or a person's family or friend can really affect lifelong whether a member of the community will use the EMS system to a local hospital. So something that we at first kind of heard directly in Iowa, and again has been confirmed in some studies in North Dakota. So something for everyone to work on, story and tell your full story. And tell your community the good work that you do. Somebody else may be telling them about something bad that they've heard, so you need to tell them all the good work that you do. The LAMP campaign targeted rural Iowans again from 35 to 64. Was launched in September 2016. Generated 4.9 million impressions, so that's how we really test how well it's getting out there, is the impressions. you know, algorithms that are run on different websites to show how many people have looked at or clicked on it. But 4.9 million impressions in the first 4 months of the campaign. The digital ads, then, if they clicked on them, linked to the microsite, which is missionlifelineiowa.org, and I'll quickly bring that up. Site that talked a little bit more about, you know, why to call 911. They could get more information if they filled in here. There was a quiz that they could take about symptoms of attack, benefits of using EMS. This is one of my favorite sections, really talking about, you know, there's the perception that just if you drive faster, you know, if I leave now, I'll go to the hospital before the ambulance even gets here. That perception of what really through the whole case of an emergency rather than just focusing on the ride. So, you know, talk about this time is critical and the difference between driving yourself and calling 911. And again, we're seeing now through some feedback that this process of sharing the difference and what happens throughout the whole case and the difference in time between calling 911 and driving yourself over a whole case is resonating with people, and we're seeing that in other states as well. So missionlifelineia.heart.org, that is still up and running, and all those materials and information is still there. Other thing I wanted to show you on that particular site, sorry. So we started out with putting in some videos for Nebraska and South Dakota videos as placeholders, and then Dan's story, which is our side of the state story, is up already, and the east side of the state story will be up soon. It's actually on YouTube now. It just isn't quite made this site, but it is available for public, and the link is available in this presentation. So check these both out. Very good survivor stories telling the tale of why you should call 911. Here's these two success stories. They were also one in the city area, and one was done in the Cedar Rapids area. They will be broken down into 30-minute short videos as well that can be used, shared with our media partners across the state to be used as PAs. So they're a little bit long in their original form to share, you know, out there in traditional media, but at 30 seconds, then it gets people interested and they can click to find out more. Again, the one video I just showed you is available on this site, and the other, here's the link to the video available on YouTube, but it will be on this site soon as well. And then those 30-second videos will be made available as soon as they are completed. Just some examples of different materials that were available. This is a web ads or links that was out there, and people could click on the Learn Why and be taken to the microsite. Some of the materials that were made available for health fairs and whoever wanted the additional materials. We used in the youth market materials that we sent out across the schools. Getting that you need to focus on next generation and get them to call 911. Maybe focusing on today's current generation, you know, only goes so far. We need to start education where education begins, obviously, and so we're going to be putting more emphasis into this in future projects based on what we learned in Iowa. So here's some of the materials that were used in the youth market campaign. Reminder, the 2017 Mission Lifeline Hospital Awards. Here are your hospitals that achieved Mission Lifeline Quality Awards. So these awards are based on quality of care. I remind everyone, as I like to do, that the color of the medal does not differentiate higher quality of care. The silver versus bronze versus gold just emphasizes the amount of time that the hospital had qualified for the award. So gold is 4 years, silver is gold is years at least, silver is 1 year or 4 quarters of data, and bronze is 1 quarter of data. Hospitals with stars next to their names were able to send representatives based on with dollars from the grant, send representatives to Anaheim, California this last year to receive their award in person for their facilities at our annual Scientific Actions, one of the largest cardiac related conferences in the world. So great conference and a great award ceremony that these hospitals were able to participate in. Our 2017 Mission Lifeline EMS Award winners, Council Bluffs, Live, Medic and Davenport, Dubuque Fire, and then Unity Point Marshalltown Area Paramedic Service with their team members listed as well. So we're going through that process now for 2018 hospital and EMS award recipients. So looking forward to letting everyone know who our 2018 award winners are as well. Bring it back to what it all starts with, and that is why we are here in the system of care. That's a good rundown of the grant and the outcomes of the grant, but I really want to talk about system of care and why we are here. So let me come off mute because I anticipate this being a little bit more interactive. I'd like to come back on. Katie, can you hit me up on Skype just to let me know if you can still hear me? It sounds like you can still hear me, so that's good. Don't happen to the moderator. Sorry about that. We're back. Sorry about that, folks. So it is off mute. Please check your phones to make sure that you are on mute or *6 to mute your own line, but this session will be a little bit more interactive. So a map that was recently created using some AHA-specific software and guidance. Each PCI-capable hospital in state, including Falls, where we have a little bit of overlap from the Sioux Falls hospitals as well, and showing You have the stars are the PCI-capable hospitals, and then the green dots are all the other hospitals in the state. And demonstrates the drive time and flight time or flight distance in 60-mile rings on each PCI-capable hospital. Shows is that PCI is still the preferred strategy for these types of patients, and in very few exceptions, we can see that should be able to be meeting that either via ground or air for most of the areas of Iowa. There are obviously a few areas that are outside the 60-minute ring, 60-mile ring. And again, sorry everyone, but hearing some background noise. Mute your line, please, or thank you. So again, with it would be with best case scenario, obviously, without the helicopter is available, the ground ambulance is available, weather is not a consideration. All of those things need to be taken into consideration when you look at the map. But again, for the most part, we have great coverage across Iowa, with primary PCI being our preferred strategy. As you can see in my keys to the system of care, having Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C, this was Plan A, again with the scenario. In care, we need to identify and notify prior to arrival, activate the downstream care teams. We need to practice and drill this process. Education, which obviously we've tried to address as much as we can in Mission Lifeline. Plan discusses a team before, not at the time of a call. That's locally at your individual hospital and EMS agency together. That's your local EMS agency during the time of regular training. That's your regions. So to give you a couple of examples, the Sioux City and Des Moines areas meet together as hospitals collaboratively with their local EMS agencies. Same thing in Sioux City, where the hospitals and EMS agencies come together on a quarterly basis to talk through systems around those cities. So that's the best to have these discussions to make sure that the care of the patients is as appropriate and as timely as possible. Lines, again, which we've worked on and we need to continue to educate EMS agencies and hospitals on and continue to evolve and improve those guidelines. And then for outreach and feedback, which I'm going to ask Julie Buckaloo from Jenny Edmondson down in Council Bluffs to get on the line and tell us about Dr. Brandt down there have done a lot of outreach over the course of the grant, and I'm sure before their neighboring and their local hospitals that refer into them. And Julie, great story recently, a case study here that shows how that outreach can really, really impact the system of care and patients. So Julie, are you there? If you are talking, we can't hear you. We're on the attendee list, but we're not hearing you. So maybe 6 to come off. Are you there?
Yeah, here. Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now, Julie. Thanks.
Okay.
And I have your 2 slides that you sent me are right after this.
Okay. Well, first of all, we have several referring hospitals, and we do our education marketing type thing every quarter to all of our referring non-PCI hospitals, and we have several that struggle just a little bit with getting our patients first middle contact to balloon time less than 120 minutes. So we decided to go out and do some extensive education with one of our facilities, and they are approximately about 62 miles away from us. And often they would call LifeNet to transport the patient. Unfortunately, the LifeNet in the state of Iowa is actually where their location is. So the LifeNet had to come from another location to this location, and it even took more time. So we encouraged this facility and another one that we have to try EMS, because their EMS is located right at their hospital. So like I said, we were getting times way over 120 minutes first medical contact to balloon, often like 184. So we're like, how can we go about this? So I contacted their ER director, and we went out actually and did a lunch and learn. And we had EMS there. We had their providers from the ED to include nurse practitioners, PAs, and their physicians. We had even some students there. We had cardiac rehab. We had, and the nurses from the floor, as well as our educator. So after our so we talk to them. What we do have maybe that's unique for our facility is we have what's called a one-call number. So anybody can call in from a non-TC hospital or any referring hospital. It doesn't even have to be a STEMI. And they'll get an ED provider, and they talk to that ED provider, and they're guaranteed admission to our hospital. They have to make no further calls. We'll arrange the bed. We'll call them back with the bed. We'll call them back and get their report, and they can send the patient immediately. That has eliminated a lot of phone calls, and the providers love it on both ends, and it also has eliminated some time. So, we started with the one call several years ago, and now we're just doing a lot of STEMI education with our referring facilities. So I'll have you go to the next slide, Gary. Is and give this feedback form and within 24 hours to any STEMI that comes to our facility. And here's one of them. They did an awesome job. After our education, the ED director said, how do you guys feel about if we bypass our ED as long as we know it's a STEMI and send them right from EMS? So this is a patient that was at their home. Granted, they live around 60 miles away. EMS noticed it was a STEMI on the 12 lead. Call Red Oak or call a referring facility in which they said, hey, let's send them right to Jenny. So they made the STEMI call to us, also called our one call number, and they came directly by squad to us. So we were looking before, like I said, at like 180 minutes, 160 minutes, and so the 911 call was at 11:34, and our first medical contact balloon time was 84 minutes. So it's a little feedback form I send them. I get all their times, fill them in, and then I also provide a little quick synopsis of the patient and what they did, or if there's any opportunities for improvement. You can slide. We do for them. We give them a little PowerPoint, put the times on there too, but it's more of visual aid, so some people learn in different ways. So we try to put the EKG on there. We try to put the vessel before and post and how everything looks. So obviously, our cath lab staff has 30 minutes to get here, but we are notified by a STEMI from the facility at approximately a little after, well, about 12:11. Our staff was then paged. They were here waiting for this patient. We always bypass our ED and go directly to the cath lab. So our stick time was at 1 o'clock. Our balloon time was 9 minutes after. So our door to balloon time here was 17 minutes, but first medical contact to balloon was 84 minutes. So this facility has done amazing things. It just took a little bit of education and working together with all parties involved to include EMS, their ED providers, and also our providers. And we do this, like I said, every quarter to all of our referring hospitals as far as go out and educate. And then all STEMIs, even if they're local here right in our city, I send this report out. Both reports, the one that's written out and also this visual report. And they're continuing to do very, very well.
Thanks, Julie. I really appreciate that and sharing the story. And you know, the great example of outreach and feedback. You know, how this patient right here was positively and directly affected by outreach and feedback. Of the outreach that was done between the two hospitals, the questions that were asked between the hospitals and the EMS agencies, process change that was made, this patient had a better outcome. And the feedback process that was done afterwards encourages this to continue to happen. So the next patient will benefit from this as well because of the great feedback piece that was done showing that following this process is best for the patient. So this is Julie's feedback form and feedback letter. I'm sure that she would be willing to you know, to this or share any of her experiences that she's had down in her area and how what they do for outreach and feedback. And I know Dr. Brandt is intimately involved in this process as well, and I'm sure that's part of it. Having a provider that's willing to go out and do this feedback outreach piece along with is definitely part of the success. But if anybody wants to get a hold of Julie, I'm sure she'd be more than willing to give you any feedback or tips or help. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks.
Now, with not much time to spare, sorry, Katie, I will turn this over to Katie for a little bit.
That's okay. So I'll just kind of blaze through this here. As Gary alluded to earlier in the call, we're starting to be able to fill that gap in the data that we were saying with the action exit and the CAD transition. So today we have 431 participant hospitals with our Get With The Guidelines coronary artery disease module, and we have 17 here in Iowa. So really exciting how rapidly this has grown, and I think that a lot of those that took us up on that additional grant and are participating in CAD are happy with the changes and the increased functionality that they're seeing from as opposed to action. So we're just going to go through some highlights of some of the data. We've done some historic data uploads of that action data going as far back as the beginning of 2015. So while we don't have the complete picture, we do have a fairly robust picture of the landscape of Iowa over the last 3 years. So we'll just hit some high points here in the next few slides. Next up, so again, that was the map, and this just lists out, we do have those 17 participating hospitals here in Iowa. We do appreciate those that did come on board, and hope that we can really grow and continue this Mission Lifeline work. And you can see over that 3-year period, this is that primary PCI in less than or equal to 90 minutes, kind of the door to balloon. So you can see that there's a little bit of growth, but overall it's been fairly good performance over that 3 years. So we have seen an upward trend, which is good to see. And next slide. The Mission Lifeline measure. So this is the FMC to PCI in less than 90. So again, we have a little drop here in 2017, but we have seen overall a trend in the positive direction of that first medical contact to PCI in 90 minutes when the patient is being taken directly from the field to a PCI center. So that's, again, part of that Mission Lifeline work is evident here, that increased pre-notification and everybody's getting everything ready so that patient can get PCI as soon as possible. So again, these next several slides show that just over the last 3 years on a lot of these STEM measures, everyone's done really well. So there's not a lot of room to grow. We've done great on aspirin at arrival. Next one is aspirin at discharge. Again, just really static, but fantastic performance. Beta blocker, the ARB, I think is next, or STEM. The ACE ARB, again, just right under 90%, but still really good. Smoking cessation, a little bit of a downward trend here, but overall still on the achievement side. And slide shows, next slide, Gary.
I'm showing the composite score now. Maybe it's a little bit lag.
Is my computer frozen?
I don't know the composite
score. We'll have you take it away, Gary.
This slide, we're showing the overall Mission Lifeline composite score, which takes a kind of an aggregate look at all of the overall Mission Lifeline measures and puts that together into a score. So, pretty consistent with a little bit of growth across Iowa at 95.9. Great overall composite score for hospitals in Iowa, and something that individual measures are important to concentrate on, obviously, and that's where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, for the patient. And the overall score just gives us a general look.
Mm-hmm. I'm back with you here, Gary. So this shows that cluster of our STEMI care. So this is the arrival to first from facility to PCI in less than 120 minutes. So kind of outlining that exact. A patient goes to a referring facility and then gets to your PCI facility. That first medical contact needs to be within 120 minutes. And you can see there has been some growth in Iowa, so that's great, but there's definitely still a lot of opportunity. The achievement on this PLUS measure, for example, is have to be at least 75% to be awarded that recognition. So you can see there's still a lot of opportunity for growth here in Iowa. Shows in general, I think it's really exciting to do the comparison to the national data. So blue is Iowa, red is national data. So when we compare Iowa in the first medical contact to PCI and all our Mission Lifeline receiving and referring composite scores, I mean, you can see here it's amazing. This Mission Lifeline grant definitely has, you know, the data speaks for itself here, that it's really helped improve the care overall. And while we still have some opportunities, certainly for improvement here in Iowa, I think that it's very exciting to see how we stack up against nationwide performance. And I think we should really be proud of that, definitely considering, you know, the rural nature of our state. And but I think that this shows the commitment and something we should really be proud of here in Iowa. Here, there's this next two slides show a couple of those good opportunities. So while you just saw the picture in general for Mission Lifeline was really great compared to the national data, the first facility to PCI in less than 120 minutes, still pretty significant opportunities exist here. As you can see that we fall below the national standard benchmark year after year. So while we have had, you know, that criminal growth year, we still compare nationally can have a lot of room for improvement. And then this next measure for opportunity would be ECG within 10 minutes of arrival. So you've seen this one, we've actually seen a downward trend, which, you know, might be something then we need to focus on intensively, is to make sure that, you know, we're sitting just for 65% or 66% of our patients are getting an ECG within 10 minutes of arrival to the ED. So that's something we really should be focusing hard on, and I think a great opportunity for improvement.
Measure is just looking at patients that arrive to a PCI-capable hospital. So in the future, we'll have the data for patients that arrive at a non-PCI-capable hospital. So this is just patients arriving at PCI-capable hospitals. Okay, thanks, Katie. Appreciate that. And this is that's a good example for sustainability of what Katie will be doing. You kind of get rid of me a little bit, and you get more Katie. So less Gary, more Katie. Always probably a good thing for everyone. As we continue the Mission Line and STEMI systems work within Iowa, Katie will be leading these quarterly task force meetings and sharing a lot of data. So in the future, these task force meetings will be back where they were in 2016, actually, where we shared a lot of data and talked through a lot of process and performance and how we can improve data across the state. So as part of the sustainability, we were able to round out the grant with a $192,000 grant to Bureau of EMS and Trauma Services. They're all hazard emergency preparedness and response development grants. So supplement that grant to the 12 service area contractors and be able to again supplement that already existing program and grant to put some work into ongoing STEMI systems. So we're excited to work with the state and those 12 contract areas on continued improvement in the STEMI systems. The interesting part of that particular grant process is that it includes not only EMS and hospitals, but public health and clinics as well. So a great place to put some additional support for systems of care. The health sciences received enough dollars to do 15 additional training sessions throughout 2018. I think we've had a couple already with that sustainability grant. So if there are EMS agencies that are still wanting some the Mission Lifeline EMS education, we still have instructors available, and they can still go on the Mercy College of Health Sciences website and sign up for Mission Lifeline education. Again, we'll continue with, Katie and I will continue, more Katie, less Gary, with the regional STEMI meetings, and we encourage other areas, if you are interested in a regional STEMI meeting off the ground in your community, we can give you some contacts throughout the state that are doing that now, and that maybe can help kick those off for you and give you some feedback and some advice on how they've done that. Again, Des Moines and Sioux City, both areas that are doing a great job on a regular basis of meeting together as hospitals with MS agencies all in one room talking through their local systems. Ongoing stroke and STEMI conferences. We will continue to do the annual conference or conferences. We're talking about doing a connected conference for 2018 in several sites and put together stroke and STEMI together. So maybe a morning of STEMI and an afternoon of stroke, or you know, to really capitalize on a lot of the critical access hospitals and EMS agencies being able to get those two disease system of care conversations in one day. Guideline revisions, of course, bringing our champions back together and talking through the guidelines and see if there's any updates that need to be done. And advocacy, on the advocacy side, right now we are going through stroke hospital designation. There's a bill that's being reviewed right now, and so going through the process for designating stroke hospitals at a state level, something that we want to do moving forward on the STEMI side. So conversations with volunteers we had before anything's brought forward, that making sure that we get the feedback from the volunteers, from the EMS agencies, from the hospitals on what's the best way to address designation. You know, the rule is you can't have routing without designation. So what does make a STEMI receiving facility? You know, what is a STEMI referring facility? What do those hospitals have in place? What do they need to have in place? So the things that we'll be looking at moving forward. And then again, if you have any questions, Katie is your main contact, and then you can always, of course, reach out to me as well. We appreciate everyone that worked through this grant for over 3 years with us, all the work that was being done locally, and all of those that volunteered to help all the portions of the grant. You know, the grant, reviewing the grant, grant applications, you know, conference speakers that we had, just everything that was done throughout the entire process from our task force members and individual people across the state. We thank you all. We're not going away. It's just the grant ended, but the work continues. So we're on by 3 minutes, but if anybody has any questions or comments, Katie and I will remain on for a bit for anybody that has anything to add. So send out the ongoing meeting for the task force. Katie and I want to kind of look and see what makes the best sense based on when our Get With the Guidelines CAD reports are going to be coming available. So we'll probably hold off a little bit and sending out the first one. We want to make sure we do it, you know, at a time frame for when those reports are available. So look forward to that and be on the lookout for it. But thank you all, and Katie and I will hang out if there's any questions.
This is Julie. I have a couple of questions.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if there is any grant money available for the Get With the Guidelines CAD for the non-PCI hospitals for participate in that.
There be in certain areas of the state. So reach out to Katie on that.
Okay.
Right now, we're really focusing right now on making sure that we're getting all PCI-capable hospitals, and we do have some grant dollars. There might not be right now a lot of dollars available for the non-PCI hospitals, but it's really going to be an area-based or a case-by-case basis. So or connect with Katie, and she might have some more information on that for your area and see what we have available. As far as the rest of the state, again, it's a case-by-case or area-by-area basis. We do have some dollars here and there, but not an overarching you know, pot of money that we can put in to Get With the Guidelines CAD for referring hospitals at this point.
Okay. Another question. All that other non-PCI grant money that was given out to facilities throughout the state of Iowa, that was all for, like, equipment, correct?
So the initial dollars that went out, that you're talking about the PCI grants that went out before you were eligible, or that went to support of Action Registry, FTE support for data collection for Action Registry, and the LifeNet receiving software. So that's what those grants went for those hospitals. After the split from Action Registry, I went back and did those grants for Get With the Guidelines CAD. We did for hospitals like you in the formerly excluded areas.
Right. Oh, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to end the webinar, and if there's no other questions, everyone can go ahead and jump off. I'm going to make sure that the recording of this webinar is done properly, so I'm going to stay on for just a minute. Done? Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.